You're listening to Little Birdie, a unique look into the world of sports and racing from the eyes of professional gamblers. I'm your host, Nick Heathcote. I'm joined by the glamorous Samantha Todd and the not-so-glamorous Jack Dickens. Welcome to the show, guys.
Welcome. I quite like that introduction.
I think it's a big show coming up, Jack. We've got Marc Lambourne joining us, and you describe him as racing's deepest thinker.
I'd say you're golf's deepest thinker.
My golf game.
Although, anyone, BZ and Matty Barker, who joined us on the golf course on Monday, probably wouldn't agree with that.
Friends of the show.
Scurry almost shot 100. Finished on 98 off 17, so it was an awful effort first up from the big boy. But anyway, Marc Lambourne is definitely one of racing's deepest thinkers, a man who's influenced more than most in the game. His pearls have taught me stacks, and they've taught plenty of people
thousands.
stacks. We've got him on off the first up. He'll talk about what's going on in his world. He's got a few issues at the moment with the stewards in New South Wales, but he'll also provide some pearls for our listeners, some gambling, punting pearls for horse racing. Then we've got, speaking of the Emperor, Scooty, PVL fanboy, Top Rope Tedeschi comes on, do a bit of Hall of Fame, but we can deep dive this weekend and properly deep dive in a bit of rugby league.
It's on next week.
Kicks off Thursday week, 7 days away. We've got 6 different hubs. We'll go through the sort of hubs. They're quite interesting. There's one in Melbourne, which staggers me. Maybe that's just PVL just sticking it up the Victorians one more time. It seems a bit risky to me to have. Why would you have Amy Park operating?
Yeah, it's a bizarre one, isn't it?
We'll go over that with Top Rope. Then we've got Cam Dean on, just to update us. We know a little bit more as it is with what is happening in the AFL season now and how that's going to affect his betting plans. And we're also going to look at how futures bets, if you placed a futures bet earlier on in the year, how each corporate's handling that and how Top Sport's handling that.
Yeah, I got a really rude shock yesterday. I had money in one of my accounts and they'd cancelled my Hawthorn Premiership bet, which I hadn't known about, and I was alarmed at because Hawthorn have already got a win on the board, so I can't wait for that chat. And I think we've got all the regular racing experts to go through with it.
Scurry's on to talk about your two favourites, the ponies and the plonk.
Yeah, let's talk about the first big agenda item this week from a punting perspective. We had Richard Irvine on the show last week, and Richard's done a lot for the game. For anyone just tuning in now, Richard pioneered the minimum bet law and has pretty much lobbied for that for 8 years. And last week we had him on the show, and he proposed to start a punters union. And so he sent an email to the principal racing authorities last week to try and get some answers about the top 4 or 5 issues around minimum bet laws. There's deductions and rules around scratchings, and bookmakers, not all of them, are dodging the minimum bet limits and playing games with punters. So Richard's championed the punter for 8 years, and now, lo and behold, there's only one racing body that's got back to Richard, and that's Racing Victoria. So hats off to them. Well done, Racing Victoria. Because this is important, because without betting, there's no racing, and we'd all be running around for ribbons, and punters drive this industry. Mark my words. If you take away the punt, there's no more horse racing and no more entertainment. Imagine that with COVID, no races on. We all would have gone mad. So fast forward a week, Richard's had response from Racing Victoria only, and Richard, rightly so, has thrown in the towel, and someone else now has to pick up the baton.
Well, why wouldn't you? When he's a friend and associate of Marc Lambourne, and this week, Marc Lambourne's copping grief from Racing New South Wales over an absolute non-issue, over their show, which creates content and promotes their product. They've got time to worry about that, but not to respond to Richard Irvine, who's made a huge impact on the sport.
Yeah, it's clear. Punters need a spot at the table.
Exactly. And I think now the PRAs have basically killed the patron saint, Richard Irvine. I think someone that's involved in racing administration should take that up and make that their cause and find a punter out there that's going to replace Richard, because they've killed him. So now we need someone who's got the time to take the baton on.
The brain power.
Exactly.
To see this huge edge in the racing administration world, it'd be a pretty dull one. If you want to actually make a difference and stand out and be the next PVL, all you got to do is make a little bit of noise outside the usual and you look like a superstar in racing. It's not that hard. Here's your big opportunity.
And that's the thing. Punters are paying everyone's wages. We understand that. The game needs to grow. Richard was doing the growing. Now who's next?
We are now joined by Marc Lambourne. Marc's been an influential person in my life and many punters, young and old. How are you, Marc?
G'day, Dicko, Scoot, and Hello, Sammy.
Hello.
Now, Marc, let's hear it from the horse's mouth. Your company, Racing Rant, and the stewards representing Racing New South Wales are at war
Again.
In one sentence, describe, or a couple of sentences, describe what's happened and how we've got to this stage.
We are locked in battle, Scoot, that's for sure. And some comments on the 20th of April on our pay-for-view podcast, where we poked a bit of fun at J-Mac's winning right on Canane and the fact that his infamous fist pumping on Astern obviously is legendary. And Glenn principally spoofed it up, hammed it up, and made a few comments that somehow seeped into, the wrong hands, shall I put it. So it appears that J-Mac's manager, Marc Guest, who we all know, and he's been around for a long time, and I've certainly had no issue with Marc. I personally like the guy. Anyway, he has sent a text message to the Chief of Stewards up here, Mark Van Gestel, asking for... the text message just said, "Hi, Marc, please give me a call." And the Chief Steward obviously responded with a call, and then Guesty sent back a link to the show. The Chief Steward watched the show and opened an inquiry. So first of all, we sat down on the 30th of April after I'd asked the Chief Steward a few questions about procedural fairness and natural justice, which failed to satisfy me. Of course, Racing New South Wales is it's a body appointed by statutory power, and the Chief Steward does not have a policy of natural justice or procedural fairness. So I managed to use that, and the fact that he sprung on me at the last minute an email from the CEO of the New South Wales Jockeys Association. I managed to seek an adjournment, and so we had round 2 on May the 7th, and it was by teleconference. There was Gordo, it was Glenster and myself, and at Stewards HQ it was Van Gestel and his deputy Wade Birch. And we went on for about an hour and a half, and Van Gestel was very, very determined to press the matter that somehow this was public. He cited the Zarafa case, who most of us are familiar with, Brent, who is a shining light down there. He got into hot water back in 2016 and
run out of town.
Suffered. He got run out of town, exactly. But he did do a stint with the Punters Show just before he was run out of town. That was part of his rehab, if you can call it that. Anyway, so the Chief Steward has got a bee in his bonnet about this. Glenn attempted to diffuse the whole matter, and hopefully we'll get the vision available to a wider audience. I'll make mention of it in a second, but Glenn said, yes, I'd like to ask J-Mac a question. And so we got J-Mac up on the video link, and Glenn said, James, you would acknowledge that you're one of the country's best riders, and that you obviously got put out for 18 months for having a bet on Astern. He acknowledged same. And then Glenn went on to ask J-Mac whether the integrity department had been to visit him lately, checked his car, asked for his phone, any of that, to which J-Mac obviously replied no. And Glenn then said, well, clearly, Mr. Chief Steward, you've not taken our comments seriously, otherwise you would have opened an investigation.
That makes sense.
Chief Steward, well, Glenn thought he had a checkmate move there, which it was quite a decent strategy, but the Chief Steward was having none of it. He said, no, you have to, if you make an allegation, you have to have evidence. And Gord then quite promptly pointed out then that after the Chief Steward had admitted that other investigations were conducted on anonymous tip-offs, that it seemed to be a little bit of a Rafferty's Rules kangaroo court style of setup. So that's where we're at. Glenn and I have been charged, and I've managed to attract a third charge. So firstly, Glenn's been charged with conduct prejudicial. I've been charged with conduct prejudicial. I've been charged with publishing on social media type of sense, defamatory comments, and last week, I don't know if you caught it, there was a little snippet on Twitter where where the deputy chief was passing comment on how the rules of racing interacted with High Court's implied freedom of political communication. And I've now had a third charge slapped on me saying by refusing to obey a steward's direction not to post any of that, not to post the supplied teleconference recording. So that's where it's at. Yet to indicate to the stewards when we're actually available to face these charges, but I'm going in hard. I've registered an official complaint against many of the parties involved.
It's setting an amazing precedent from where I stand. So basically, if any private conversation is brought in front of the stewards in a private chat group or a different punters club or in a comments-based YouTube live stream like the Bulldozer did, any of those comments could actually be pointed to the stewards, and then they could go down the same route as you guys and be at the sort of the mercy of the stewards, depending on what they've said and not said. It just seems that this is something that's completely been taken out of context. To my knowledge, Glenn and J-Mac have settled it, and we all know that everyone's good people. I don't understand why Racing New South Wales stewards are going on with it, and it's sort of like another gotcha moment, and it's perplexing to me. And all punters want is consistency, but we open up a can of worms. A New South Wales going to go out and police all of racing Twitter now? I'm really at a loss to see what they're trying to do here, other than hanging you guys out to dry.
Amen.
Yes, well, look, the Zarafa case went to the Racing Appeals Tribunal, and they upheld the steward's view that as soon as you put anything down digitally, then you lose control of where it goes. And I can see that line of reasoning. The thing about this situation is that it does appear that the stewards can pinch anyone they want to, and clearly they're not going to go around pinching everybody. They're just going to pinch
whoever they feel like.
Well,
they just want to be immune of critique. Well, they don't want the boat rocked.
There's not enough hours in a day for them to go and pick out every wronging that they feels wrong.
No, what they really want is they want people to dob, to be narcs and dob in third parties to them. And look, that's what's happened here. Guestie's dobbed us in, and Tony Grisafi's joined in with a bit more. So the way that I see the setup is that you've got the chief steward in racing in New South Wales, who's clearly, as we know, Racing New South Wales is run by the Landies, so that one statement says it all. And secondly, the racing officialdom has for a long time seen itself as protective of owners, trainers, jockeys, and officials or administrators. So punters run a long last with officialdom pretty much everywhere around Australia, and they're easy game.
You'd think in this COVID time, the stewards just worry about policing of the races, integrity on the front line, and leave all the tit for tat comments on YouTube and stuff go to the back order. But Marc, I wish you well in your plight. I think you've raised some really interesting points. Best of luck with it. I know the punters are definitely on your side, and thanks for joining us today.
No worries. Great to be able to tell a little bit of my story, and obviously there's more to come, and thanks for the opportunity, guys.
And if you do want to follow the story, follow Marc on Twitter at JustIdeal.
Yeah.
At JustIdeal.
Or at Little Birdie Pod. We'll be following it very, very closely.
Up next, Cam Dean joins us to chat AFL and how the new season shapes up from a punting point of view, and Top Rope as well to talk some rugby-like.
Has your bet been rejected? It's time to sack your bookie and bet with a bookmaker you can trust. Topsport.com.au. Please gamble responsibly and call Gamblers Help 1-800 858 858.
Hey, don't write yourself off yet.
Welcome back to Little Birdie. We've got Cam Dean on the line, who rumours are he might be back in Melbourne, Scooty.
Out of the wetsuit.
He might have taken the wetsuit off finally and found his way back to Melbourne. Sammy, I reckon we know why a man of his stature in the online dating world would have returned to Melbourne. What are your thoughts?
Well, a little birdie tells me he might just be heading out on a date.
So we've caught him
I
just
am
before he heads out. Thursday, just 6 o'clock on a Thursday night. Cam, how are you?
Very well, guys. Thank you very much.
AFL Futures, I woke up yesterday morning and I was in a cold sweat because my Hawthorn bet for the premiership was cancelled and now they're a shorter price. What's going on with our AFL Futures bets?
I think every bookie's taken a really different approach here. It's quite difficult because a lot of bookies have different rules, so they've had to handle them different ways. I think Sportsbet avoided all bets. I think a tab avoided sort of everything but the major markets. I think TopSport have given people the choice to void or keep them up to a certain date. So it is quite tricky, but I think if that bet has been voided with that bookie, I'm sure if you called them up, they'd let you replace it at the price that you took it at.
That is a real pearl for anyone listening because you can just look at that and think I'm too small to affect the result here.
Yep.
Cam is saying if you simply just call them up and ask, you're likely to get your bet back if you want it.
I would say that if that bookie's been reasonable, I reckon that the reason they avoided those bets essentially is because of their rules say that's the case, and I'd say if you called them up and that bet's shortened, they would be unlikely not to accept the bet back at the original price.
And if they don't, what do? We take a snapshot of it, we record something, we post it on Twitter, we tag Little Birdie, we tag Nick Heathcote, we tag Jack Dickens, and we'll make enough noise that you'll get a result.
And I think Tristan will match the price anyway. Tristan likes to take a bet, so maybe TopSport would be the bookie for you. Now, Cam, looking
Gamble
at
responsibly. Gamblers help 1-800-858-858.
Now, looking at the current prices of AFL Futures, Cam, whose value to your eye at the current stage? I know we sort of mentioned West Coast because they were training in groups, but now the hubs and the rules and the goalposts seem to be shifting and moving. Who's coping with it well? I know Geelong's got a bit of controversy. But what's your take?
Yeah, I think since we last spoke, a lot has changed. There's still an unknown about what the actual draw is going to be. But what we do know is that there is going to be those 6 teams up playing in a hub in Queensland. And I think what I can gather from that hub is they'll generally all play each other. And in that hub, there's 3 really soft teams. So you've got Fremantle, and you've got Gold Coast, and you've got Adelaide, and they're really soft teams. So the teams that will take advantage of that are probably West Coast and Brisbane. And so Brisbane, they're going to get the opportunity to play a potential away game against, say, a Fremantle in Gold Coast. So that's really going to help a team like Brisbane. They're going to get a big leg up if they can play away games really close to home. And conversely, not conversely, but on the opposite side of it, West Coast, they potentially are going to get to play a lot of their games against these softer teams in this hub, and then later in the season they could get to play all of their home games against the really tough Victorian team. So I think it does help West Coast and it does help Brisbane in that hub situation. It's hard to say which Victorian teams and Sydney teams get an advantage without seeing the draw. But for me, in that hub, I'm looking at West Coast and Brisbane and saying, yeah, they've got a leg up there.
I tell you what, we might have to send you to the Gold Coast to be our surfing AFL correspondent and just put you up in the hub. What about Collingwood? They never travel. Are they just going to play every game at the MCG? What are they going to do? They're blessed.
Yeah, well, they do. They never travel, and when they travel, they generally travel quite well. So, yeah, like these Victorian teams, I think they're all going to be... They've got the advantage that they're getting to train at home at the moment. They're not having to move away from home, and then they'll get to play plenty of teams against Victorian teams. But they do lose the advantage of having big crowds, which does give them an advantage in the normal scenario. So that is one disadvantage that they're going to have in the early stages of the season.
And it could also get inside some of the young blokes' heads. You think about it. You play for Collingwood. You're pretty limited, but you're playing in Victoria and Melbourne. You are a demigod socially. You're skipping lines. You're very busy in these 2 hitting zones of Tinder and Hinge. Now they're getting nothing. They don't go to that.
Which way are they going to go?
They're basically playing FIFA all day. That's got to change the psyche when they're lining up for set shots. It might sound stupid, but I'm telling you, it's going to play a role.
I think it'll be reverse. I think they'll be more focused and more dedicated. They'll be full of testosterone and ready to run.
Early, then they'll just start to get itchy, start to get wobbly.
Yeah, there's a lot of players out there that aren't so dedicated at the moment, though, and that's the big question. What's happening with some of these teams? Obviously, there's the Jack Stephen news out there. I've heard stories of other players having late nights out when the restrictions were raised a little bit. So some of these teams is going to be dependent on what sort of levels of fitness and dedication they've had during COVID times.
No, that's why Cam's our man. He's got that inside information, which makes wagering just that little bit easier.
Now, speaking of nights out, Sammy, what's the one tip for this fresh date for Cam tonight?
Well,
God knows he needs it.
Eager. I'm very eager to know how you're preparing for this, Cam.
Shave down?
I'm preparing by speaking to you guys on a podcast currently.
You've got the press shirt and what's going on? How are you?
He wouldn't iron shirts. He wouldn't even
home?
have a button up. It'd just be like a little t-shirt.
How do you date during COVID time?
Take home D'Estasio, take home Chin Chin. What are you doing?
Well, Sammy, you seem to be the expert. You gave a few tips the other day. You schooled me on Twitter, so I'm definitely not getting any discussions and telling you how to do it.
Thanks, Cam. Outstanding work, and we can't wait to see you in the studio here at SEN. Thanks for the chat and good luck tonight. Hope you get lucky.
Look forward to it. Cheers, guys.
Hall of Fame time now with top rope Tedeschi.
Top rope time, Hall of Fame time. Welcome, Nick.
Welcome, Scurry. Hello, everyone. It's great to be back. We're a week out from rugby league, so everyone up and about.
Mate, we've had a couple of cracking weeks. We've had Rick McIntosh, Shane Ciurleo and Canadian horse racing. Who's this week's contestant for the Hall of Fame at Little Birdie headquarters?
Usually this time is a bit of a time to get outlandish, a bit of a time to get a bit leery, a bit of a time to get a bit wide. Not this week. This is going to be a legit Hall of Famer every which way you go at it. Excluding PVL, who should be nominated every week for the Hall of Fame, we're going to nominate the great Richard Irvine for the work he has done for the gambler in Australia. His work involving, and I'm sure you'll expand on this, the minimum bet laws, his attempt to unionise for punters, and the slap in the face he got from the racing industry. Pretty disgraceful this week.
He needs a coronation on the way. I couldn't think of a better candidate for the Hall of Fame. Richard's done more for the game than anyone in my short lifetime in the last sort of 10 years of racing. If you understand betting and how turnover works and the need for professional punters and what they do to stimulate the market, Richard has been an absolute godsend, and hats off to him, and he deserves his time to ride off into the sunset as looks like he's deleted his Twitter account. But
Here.
hat tip for Richard. Let's talk NRL.
Rugby league, Scurry. It's not NRL anymore, mate. Rugby league. It's a week away. Round 3 kicks off. We've got 6 hubs, top rope. Bankwest, which is the steepest stadium in the land, in Parramatta, out the very, very far west of Sydney. Campbelltown, which is even further west, but a lot south. Rural almost. Central Coast, the old Blue Tongue Stadium, top rope. Townsville, the new joint, Suncorp, and Amy Park. Amy Park, why are we playing in Melbourne?
I can only assume that this is the first rocket sent south from PVL as he attempts to take Dan Andrews' job and become premier and finally unite the two states. Those historians out there will remember World War I kicked off with a very, very small event, a small attempted assassination of King Ferdinand, Franz Ferdinand, and all of a sudden there's a world war in place. Well, PBL just sent a little missive down here, and all of a sudden the Melbourne Cup's run in August. PBL's your premier / king. It's a good time to be alive.
I've done a little bit of research this week on PVL or Kim Jong or whatever you want to call the man in the ill-fitted suits with the massive, massive ties. He's a big Wayne Bennett man. Wayne Bennett might be the man behind PVL who's steering the sort of rugby league ship.
There's only one club this new 6 again rule suits. Happens to be South Sydney. PVL and Wayne Bennett both very much attracted to power. Wayne always likes to be behind the scenes, watching on, doesn't like to be seen. And all of a sudden, just pulling the strings back there and gets himself exactly what he wants.
Well, as Wayne Bennett always says, sheep don't win and don't die with the music in you. How do you think the one referee adjustment, if PVL can get that over the line, which isn't immoral, I told you this 2 weeks ago, if it does get across the line, top rope, how do you see it changing the game?
So it's across the line. They'll have to bring in scab referees. PVL, I don't know if you know PVL at all. He does not change his mind. Once a decision's made, the decision's made. So How will it affect the game? I have a funny feeling it's going to slow the game down a lot, despite the attempt to speed it up. There's just going to be a lot of wrestling in the ruck, a lot of Melbourne Storm tactics. It plays right into the hands of the Storm. You cannot get enough on the Storm for the premiership right now, just quietly.
You've always been staunch with the Storm, but a little birdie told me that Marc Lambourne used to be a referee in his earlier days. So if he finds himself out of a job on the Racing Rant, he might just step in and be one of these substitute
What a world.
referees.
If PVL runs him out of racing...
He might need a second job to pay his fine, won't he?
PVL runs him out of racing.
Up he bobs in.
All of a sudden, PVL needs him to get rugby league going.
Now, what's happening...
What PVL giveth, PVL taketh. Be careful with PVL.
Now, South Sydney, there's a fair bit going on down there.
Are they sweet?
There's 3 incidents in 3 weeks, and Cody Walker, what's he thinking?
Bruce Lee.
Bruce Lee, I'll tell you what, if his kicking game was that good last year, South might want to. It's just lucky Wayne and PVL are as close as they are, to be honest. South might struggle to fill the side in round 1 if they weren't.
I think it strengthens the rumour that Wayne's PVL's main man, because how Latrell and Cody will play round 3 is beyond me. Like, in any other sport, in any other team, they've at least got a 1 to 2 week little holiday.
Oh, look, the AFL is all about optics. They try and cover it up. Rugby league just moves on because you know what? There's always another scandal to take the spotlight off. So I wouldn't worry about this. This will be forgotten by the weekend when someone's been flogged in the street. Someone's done something stupid. The next bubbler comes along. Who knows?
Outstanding work as always. Top rope Tedeschi. We can't wait for rugby league to kick off next week. What have we got up next, Sammy?
Up next, we've got Rob Scurry and In the Know with Snow.
Rob Scurry joins us to talk Randwick and red wine. I was thinking about you last Saturday night, Rob.
Ooh.
I bought Ben Glaitzer Anna Perina Barossa Valley Shiraz. It is unopened, and I'm going to wrap my lips around it this Saturday night. Can't wait. Have you had it?
Yeah, it used to be called the Godolphin until, old mate arced up. No more Godolphin. Change the name, please. And we did.
Wow.
Anything for him.
Well, yeah. If anyone watched 60 Minutes on Saturday night, you'll see the man's capable of getting away with almost anything.
Exactly. Now, you like one at Randwick, or do you want to talk red wine for a sec?
I can. A bit different, similar. Barossa Valley. I've got 2 tips. Label called Spinifex, husband-wife team. A bit more of a modern style. He's a Kiwi. She's from France. Sort of heavily influenced by Northern Rhone. So we're talking more modern style. Bit different to the Glaitzer Anna Perina or Matolo, which is the same winemaker. More modern, a bit more lower alcohol, less hang time on the vines, and moreish, delicious, but still, Barossa. So yeah, that's the Spinifex Bet Noir 2018, $28 down from 55. It's moving this week.
Nice little fusion there, New Zealand and France. That's best of both worlds. So pure. Now, Rob, speaking of. Well, let's talk about Foreign Correspondent. You're familiar with the show. You were once 27, now you're closer to
45. And believe the numbers, trust the data. Because you see Rob in person and you won't believe it. You think he's still in his early 30s, but he's he's older than he looks.
Well, I'm not in my 30s anymore, mate. 41 this last week. And so, I was just it was a show on the deep impact and Japan's love for racing. And it just got me kind of, a bit sad about the state of our game. So I got my big letter writing pen out, I got the laptop out and, wrote a really heartfelt letter to the AJC at the time.
Australian Jockey Club.
Suggesting that, Australian Jockey Club, they're going well. I just basically said, guys, why don't we promote more of the horses? Why is it always a day club? Why is it all about drinking? Once upon a time, this was the main sport in Australia. Where's the long-term plan? Where's the promotion of wagering? What can we do to engage families and get people to the track? Anyway, the guy, I won't mention his name, obviously high-powered bloke, wanted a meeting eventually. So I eventually got in there after he fobbed me off one day, 8:30, rocked up, took one look at me, and said, "Excuse me, I'll just grab my assistant." And the assistant came in, and I gave him a few ideas about food trucks. I think it was
ping pong tables, food trucks,
ping pong tables. Why can't we play poker at the track? Why does it have to be about this anyway? So he said he'd get back to me, never did. But that's a true story. So I eventually got to Japan and I got to Fuchu, and it was the best racing experience of my life.
They have food trucks. Yeah, they're absolutely fanatical. It's an amazing experience.
Well, how's this when he was when he went to Japan? It's how many people there? 100,000.
Oh, this day was about 65.
65,000 on track. This is an Australian in Japan. He goes up to the race day office and says, "I'd like a form guide." And they said, "Yeah, no worries. Which language would you like it printed in?" How many pages was that form guide?
It was probably about 40.
40 translated
pages.
to English. Compare that to the experience you'd get here. You get stung $70 to walk in the joint, and then $11 to $12 for a mid-strength beer.
Schnoofter.
Right up the snuffy.
Yeah, mate. Well, it was free. It was free entry, and beers were about $2.50. And I ended up with a chicken katsu, and just fell in love with it. You know, found the first winner. At a big price, but kind of failed to get on because I forgot to bring cash to the track. Always have cash at the track.
It's a tricky experience, but they pop out of the tote window and they walk you through it. Speaking of striking some first blood, Randwick Race 1. You're all over one here. Yeah,
look, he's my kind of horse, like a noble-looking head on him. His name's Peltzer, by So You Think. So I'm expecting a bit of rain. It could be anything from a 6 to a 12. It's hard to know, but So You Think generally get through it. He's a go-forward type, so he should be in it for a long way. $4, I'm sick of tipping, $10 plus. Go with something that's going to win.
Beautiful. All right, so race 1, number 2, Peltzer. Sammy, prices, please.
It's had a bit of love. It's gone from $3.50 into $3.20, so you must have had a little chunk on it.
Nice little shop early. That's
Gamble responsibly. Gamblers help 1-800-858-858.
Now, once we've collected on Peltzer, Rob,
give me another pony. Find me one more, please.
All right. Another horse I like is Petronius in race 6, number 9. It's a 3-year-old up in grade, but racing against older horses. I like that this time of year, and I like the way he's tenacious. I like him stepping up in distance. I think he'll run top 3 and give you a good sight. Look beaten, might be, you might get a big pricing run as well when the whip gets one around the backside with the shillelagh before the corner. You'll keep batting away though.
Beautiful. Thank you very much, Rob. Thank you very, very much. Little Birdie is brought to you by topsport.com.au. Sammy, have the Smarts backed anything in particular headed towards the weekend?
I'll give you a couple from around Australia. The Lexus Classic at Eagle Farm, race number 7. They've come for number 1 profit. They've backed it from $6 into $4.80. At Randwick, it's race 8, the Octagonal Handicap, where number 12, Man of Peace, has gone from $31 into $16. Flemington, race 8, the Apache Cat Handicap over 1,600 metres. They've come for Soci Bond from $5.50 into $4.40, and a little bit of money for the fave Shot of Irish in there too. And it's the last of the day at Flemington, race 9, number 1, High-Low, with Damien Oliver aboard, that's caved from $7 into $4.80.
Gamble responsibly. Gamblers help, 1-800-858-858.
And now it's time to talk to Snowy. How are you?
I'm well, boys.
And girls.
Also, just wanted to say a quick apology to Sammy. Actually, I'm not one to apologise normally, but I believe after she put the ad up with a little walk date within the Nova Snow, the phone's gone off the hook. She's been complaining of it ringing in this week. She hadn't been able to sleep, constant headache. So, Sammy, I apologise for that.
Have you got it down to a short list?
You're most welcome.
Now, Snowman, what's the mail from the Caulfield Hut?
I haven't got one from the hut. The boys were complaining a little bit this morning. It's a bit wet and rah. But anyway, race 6 tomorrow night at Cranbourne Boomstock. Mick Price said she'll get a Jamie Carr special, settle about 5th in the run and finish over the top of them. After 2 previous seconds, he reckons it gets its chance tomorrow night, and that was his best for the weekend.
Boomstock's a beautiful, beautiful animal. Beautiful animal. You got anything for us at Flemington, Snowy?
There was one at Flemington, Milwaukee. It's been impressive. His last 2 starts. Loves the Flemington straight. He burst through last week and was just beaten on the quick backup too, which I believe there's someone else in the studio, Jack, who's looking for a quick backup after nearly hitting a ton last week. But the stable think Milwaukee can atone this week and go one better.
The Mike Maroney yard, Milwaukee. Now, just to defend my golf game like everyone else.
Let's give Snowy some credit here.
That was a good side swipe. I did not see it coming.
A gentle like sledge. That's a That's the peak of sledging. It hung there for a little bit. We had to think about it, and then Scurry realised, oh, bang.
He's got me.
Got him. Go on, piss off. You're out. Tell your story. Walk it, pal.
Not very good fresh, I hear, Scooter, are we?
I did mention you in a couple of drives that I smoked off the tee, so I was quite complimentary when I was having my round, and look forward to having a hit with you, and there will be some lip from my end. So Flemington race 6, we've got Milwaukee. Price, Sammy?
Milwaukee is currently at $4.40.
Thanks, Snowman. We'll see you on the golf course.
No worries. See you guys.
Up next, Curly talks Eagle Farm as the carnival progresses up north, and Troy Little talks dish liquors.
If you like doing your own form, with 7 years of historic benchmark data and ratings, punting form is the number one choice for horse racing professionals. Gamblers Helpline is 1-800-858-858.
What a read that was, punters at home. Like, that's as smooth as it gets. What a
Yeah,
professional
smooth as
operator,
silk.
Sammy Todd.
Welcome back to Little Birdie. I'm your host, Scoot, with Dicko and Sammy. It's time to talk Queensland racing with Shane Ciurleo, the man that wears many hats. 1 week he's MJ.
Well, he's taken off the MJ.
Next time,
His self-esteem's nowhere near MJ levels.
he's now Rocky Balboa and he's at the PT. But this week we're going to talk Eagle Farm track, who's also under repair.
I've got a little bit of common with Eagle Farm. We're both cast a few weeks ago. Hoping that we can bounce back starting this week.
Now, Shane, talking serious business here, Canane looks the pin-up horse for the weekend in the Gunsynd Classic over 1800. He's been installed at $2 in early markets. Is he a complete living certainty?
Close enough. It's probably the only horse you want out of this race going forward. Look, obviously, there's a little bit of concern, particularly for me with this stable when they bring him up here. I don't seem to have a lot of luck catching the Waller camps, particularly good at training horses for grand finals. This looks like a stepping stone to some better races in a couple of weeks' time. Just on class alone and what he showed with his win last start, from gate 17, you just sort of hope that he's 3 and 4 wide at some, for the majority with some sort of cover and just clear air. He does look better than him.
Now, I saw some kickback of the track from some photos of track work at Eagle Farm during the week. What do you think is happening with that surface?
I think the surface. We've seen how bad the surface was. It had some, I believe, it had some disease in the roots and the leaves, which sort of stop it from binding together, and the surface was very loose, and the horses were just kicking the top off it. They kicked back the size of dinner plates before they put a halt to racing there to try and get it right for the carnival. I'm not a green thumb, only going on what I read. As you know, I'm no good in the garden at all, so bit outside of my area here, but the reports that you read from the people in the know are talking about difficult to grow sufficiently this time of year in Queensland because it cools off a little bit. The mouthpieces for the industry will tell you that it's beautiful, it's great grass, best grass, unbelievable grass, best grass, great surface. You only had to see that gallop from Kementari the other day. I know it was early morning, there could have been a bit of dew about, but there was enough kickback there to have some concern. So I'm just going to bet like it's the old Eagle Farm. They'll knock the top off it, and horses for courses this week. Okay,
I'm just going to hit you with a couple of quick fire questions because we're time poor. Isotope versus Rothfire in race 6. Who do you want to be with?
Rothfire.
Can Kementari win the Victory Stakes? Yes or no?
No.
And what's your best out wide? Because we know you like getting wider than most.
Bunya Park Dolby's the scene of 10 races on Saturday. Chris Lees Chris Lees is taking a horse called I'm Kate out to Dolby on Saturday. Back in trip because it didn't run a strong mile the other day. Perfectly suited to break a run of minor placings and will win.
Outstanding. It's too early for market moves. Curls, we're going to have to wrap you up. If you want to see more of Curly, head to themailbag.com.au and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys.
And now it's time for Troy Little, who's been running some punting tutorials at Troy Little Punt, is where you can find him. He joins us to talk Group 1 Sandown Harrison Dawson final. Welcome.
Thanks, guys. Good to be here. Hopefully another profitable night. We kick off with the Harrison Dawson final, which is a Group 1 race, and it's a crackerjack field, and you're arguably seeing the fastest dog I've seen in the first 50 yards of a dog, probably first 100 yards of a dog race since sort of Brett Lee times. Like this dog, Simon told Helen, he deserves favouritism tonight. Like he's a star, and he's got a nice soft draw, I believe, and I think with a safe beginning, he's going to take an awful lot of beating.
Yeah, it looks like the early markets found him as well. 2.10 into $1.85. There's 12 races, so wow, you must be absolutely exhausted after you do one of these sessions. How can people find you?
Yeah, go to SEN inside the track club, scroll down to the link and it'll have my name there with Thursday night Sandown and Saturday night the Meadows. Click in and you'll get some links to your emails, and I do a Zoom call every 2 races, so I go through 2 races at a time and give early quaddies, lays, backs, and give an in-depth description of how I think each race will be run. So that's how it works, and getting good feedback, and we're going well.
I've heard some pretty good stuff about this. Turned a couple of punters' losing days into some winning evenings. So well done, Troy.
Yeah, thanks, Sammy. I heard there's a couple of bookies in there. I think a couple of picnic bookies and some provincial bookies have been getting in there and getting it in while they can't field at the minute with COVID on. So, they're enjoying it, the books.
Thanks for joining us, Troy. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, guys. Good luck.
That's us for another week.
It's been a big episode. We've covered some AFL, rugby league.
Bit political at the start, but it's
very serious.
We had to get it out of the way. I think he deserves a platform, and we've provided it. Big week ahead. Rugby league kicks off Thursday night. Punters, we've got 1 week to wait for some actual sport that'll be covered by an actual free-to-air network.
Something different.
Thanks for listening, and to hear some more, head to littlebirdie.pod.com.